So if you're thinking about moving to Florida and you're on a budget, I'm going to go into the top 10 really desirable beach budget towns. And there's a lot to choose from. We're going to go from south to west to north to east. Remember, Florida is a big state, and there literally was so much information that I wanted to actually break this down into 2 videos. So we're going to go into affordability, cost of living, recreation. Let's get into it. Now make sure you subscribe because next week we're going to be going through basically the top 5 and the #1 beach budget town. So subscribe for when that video comes out, you'll be alerted. For those of you that don't know, my name is Alex Haigh, and I've been doing real estate here in the state of Florida for over 20 years. Now I work with a trusted group of real estate professionals that actually know this state from the northwest to the southeast. And I actually have been all over the state. Now, the way that I wanted to create this video is to give you 4 specific criteria, and the conversation around this essentially is, what is the median house price? 2, accessibility. We get these questions, and I did these from folks asking us questions. Accessibility to hospitals, accessibility to major international airports. Then we also get asked, hey, what's the recreation like? Are there museums there? Is there fishing and so forth? And then also we do get the questions around climate. What's the weather like there? So those are the 4 main criteria. As I go through these top 10 beach budget towns, I'm going to be mentioning these different criteria, and stick around to the end because we're going to get to that gem of #1 next week. All right, starting off with number 10, Delray, or Village by the Sea, like they like to call it. Down in the southeast section here, you're going to have Delray Beach. Now, Delray Beach, the median home price is going to be between $400,000 and $500,000. Definitely in the upper echelon for our budget beach towns. Now, one of the super advantages of Delray is the access to the airports. So you're going to have Orlando all the way up here. That's going to be about probably a 2.5-hour drive. Where you're probably going to want to go, my favorite airport in the world, by the way, is West Palm Beach. That's PBI. All right, so that's Palm Beach International Airport. From down here in Delray, you're probably talking half an hour depending on traffic. Fort Lauderdale International Airport, that's another great international airport. That is only going to be about a 45, because it gets a little tricky sometimes with traffic and rush hour traffic and so forth. But then of course you have Miami right down here. So Miami, you're going to be able to go to Switzerland or any of these other major spots. But you have 4 international airports within a 2.5-hour drive, and 3 of them that are within an 1.5-hour drive. Now, what you're also going to have is the Tri-Rail. So the Tri-Rail is going to go from here all the way up to Orlando, and the Tri-Rail actually goes down into Miami. The Tri-Rail is a high-speed rail. They're going to have a high-speed internet. You're going to have food, drinks, and all that kind of thing on there. It's a really super accessible way to access the middle of the state and the bottom part of the state. So if you live down in Delray, you could bounce on the train all the way up here and then here into Stewart. But then you can go up to Orlando and go and see Mickey, or if you had an international flight and you wanted to go to Orlando and it was a better flight than going to Miami, the Tri-Rail is an incredibly useful bit of public trans. As far as beaches and so forth, Delray is Delray Beach. It's named Delray Beach for a reason. Depending on who you are, there's art festivals and all that kind of stuff as far as recreation is concerned. You do have for hospitals, Broward North, and then you have some branches of the Cleveland Clinic and also the Sinai Clinic, which is down here in Miami as well. So Delray Beach, that's part of the reason that the price point is a little bit higher. Let's talk about the climate. This is one thing, a big distinction that I want you all to understand as far as Florida. Now, down here is the Keys. Right up here, there's actually a line which goes across the state, and it ends right around in Cocoa Beach, and it's called the Frost Line, okay? And the Frost Line is actually the distinction between tropical and subtropical. So down into this area, there's a distinct, and even there can be a 5-degree difference just in this area here. Remember, Florida's a really big state. So as far as climate's concerned, in the wintertime, you're going to be looking at a lows mid-60s. And then in the summertime, it's going to be getting up into the 80s and 90s. And then the humidity goes up as well. So if you want to be in the little bit of the warmer weather, just be thinking about this frost line, and don't be thinking it gets frost up here. You're just talking a little bit of change in temperature. You might get some seasonal changes and it's just going to get a little bit cooler as you work your way north. So just think kind of Cocoa Beach and Melbourne and Port Charlotte. This area down here is going to be warmer, tropical, and then you're going to get more subtropical as you move further north. All right, number 9, we have Pompano Beach. Now, Pompano Beach, as you can see, Delray is just a little bit further north. Pompano, why is the median price $325 to $375 rather than a $400 to $500 like Delray? It's just not quite as nice as Delray, let's put it that way. Delray's got a really sweet little downtown area, but Pompano Beach is a really good alternative if you wanted to be a little lower price point. Again, that $325 to $375 median, you're going to have all the same access that Delray has for the tri-rail. You're going to have the buses and the shuttles. You got great beaches that are down here. You have that warmer weather. You're going to be a little closer to Miami, a little closer to Fort Lauderdale, a little further away from West Palm Beach and that, but you're still going to have that tri-rail access as well. Now, your recreation and all that, you got great golf courses there. You have great beaches. I would say any of these places you can drive 10 or 15 minutes, and there are all kinds of restaurants down here in the Southeast Florida area. I couldn't even get into the list, but they're there. And again, finishing with the climate. The climate, you're very, very close here to Delray, like I mentioned here earlier. In the wintertime, it's, you're 60 to 70. A lot of times it can be 76 for 2 weeks straight without any rain. And in the summertime, it's going to heat up a little bit, and then the humidity is going to get a little bit higher. So I would say number 9 here, Pompano Beach. You're going to have a little higher cost of living in that Southeast Florida area, and the price of the home's going to be upward a little, but it's not going to be as high as Delray Beach. So if you want to be in that Southeast area and you want to be a little bit more of a budget, I'd look to Pompano Beach. All right, number 8, I wanted to take you over to the West Coast. Now, if you want the old Florida and a great beach budget town, you're going to be looking at Englewood. Now, Englewood is definitely a quieter town. You're going to be looking at around $325 to $375 for median income home here in Englewood. Now, the advantages of Englewood, as far as proximity, you do have Tampa and St. Pete Airport right here. You also do have Naples right down here. And both of those, as well as Sarasota, have international airports. The Sarasota International Airport is going to be very, very limited as far as international travel, but the St. Petersburg or Tampa Airport and Naples as well. I would go to Tampa. You're going to really get some great international flights there. Or you can always bounce over to Miami or Fort Lauderdale. That's going to be an hour and a half drive. This is called Alligator Alley right here. Really cool drive. You probably won't see any alligators, but it's a great spot. Now, the limitation over there is going to be you're not going to have that tri-rail like you have on the East Coast over here. So in Englewood, they do have a small transit system with buses and shuttles and that kind of thing, but you're not going to be able to have that high-speed rail going, and linking you up to Orlando and that kind of thing. That is not happening down here in Englewood. It's simply just a really quiet little small town. You got great art festivals for recreation, and you're going to have seashells on the shore. That's one of the things that I wanted to let you know as far as recreation. The whole West Coast, depending on the beach, is renowned for the seashell collecting. You really won't find much of that on the East Coast. So if you're a real shell aficionado and you like to go out and collect your shells, the West Coast is fantastic for that. The golf over here is great. By the way, this is all great golf. It's called Florida. We've got great golf everywhere. Now, the fishing, which I'm not a fisherman, but I do like to talk to these gentlemen, the inshore fishing on the West Coast is meant to be much better than the inshore fishing on the East Coast. If you're an offshore fisherman, it's going to be better on the East Coast because you have the Gulf Stream, which comes through here, and you can scoot over to the Bahamas. So just as a little side note, people like to know about recreation. They say, hey, how's the fishing? How's the golf? I always say to everybody, the golf is fantastic. So back to Englewood. Now, last thing is climate. So it's kind of right around in here where that frost line starts. You're probably not going to feel it over here, really that much of a difference from over on the East Coast. The only thing I'll let you know, as far as climate is concerned, in the summertime, it can actually get a little hotter over here because you don't have those prevailing winds coming off of the Atlantic Ocean. It gets a little stale over here in the Gulf. So just kind of be cognizant of that. It's Florida. It's going to be hot in the summer, but I think Englewood is a great opportunity for somebody that wants that small beach town on a budget, but kind of doesn't want maybe the faster pace. I'd be looking at Englewood. All right, coming in at number 7, Pensacola. Now, Pensacola is a far cry from Miami. If you drove from Miami to Pensacola, it would be probably about 10 to 12 hours. Definitely 10, depending on traffic. Pensacola is a little bit of more of a quieter area. You got the seashells on the shore, and it's not the Panama City thing. As far as accessibility, now your accessibility is going to be, there is an international airport here in Pensacola, but that's gonna kind of be it. You do have a small international airport down here at Panama City. You're gonna have to probably come all the way across here to Jacksonville, or they do call this the Redneck Riviera up here, and that's just kind of a colloquialism that people use. But you can go over to Biloxi or even down into New Orleans. So your accessibility in different ways, you got to be thinking outside of the state almost. So from Pensacola, we did a drive over here to New Orleans. It's only a couple hours. So literally you could be having dinner at one of the best places to eat in the world, which is New Orleans, being there in Pensacola. Now, with that being said, you're going to have a long drive to any of these other things out here, but there are national wildlife preserves. It's just a little bit more of a quieter area up there. You got good hospitals, you have good recreation, fishing, and all that kind of stuff. Now, lastly, I want to get into the climate. This is a big deal. This is going to be about as cold as Florida probably will get on a general basis, right? So rather than the average in the winter down here being 60, your average in the winter up here is going to be 50. It's about 10 degrees Fahrenheit difference. So just know that you're going to have, on average, a little bit of colder weather. And here's the deal. In the summertime, it's not going to be that much cooler. It actually can be a little bit hotter because the hot air from the south here kind of rises and hits the coast, and it gets a little muggy and stale. I don't know if you've ever been to Atlanta, they call it Hot Atlanta. There isn't a lot of air that moves through there, so it just can be a little bit more stale and so forth. So I want to take a quick moment here to mention that I love Florida. I absolutely love Florida. I've been all over the state. I think there's cool things from the hot springs up here in Cool Springs and Mickey and Orlando. It is awesome. It is awesome. That being said, this is on a budget, so we're trying to give you an idea of some of these beach towns that are a good opportunity for you, depending on your personality type. So depending on what your needs are, as far as, hey, you got family or a job or whatever factors might be bringing you to a certain part of the state, reach out to us. We cover this area very, very exclusively, myself and a group of professionals on my team, but we also have a great network of agents that cover the whole state. We all basically look at each other through our Google business profiles, which you might want to check out here. We have over 400 reviews, and we have a great network of excellent agents that we work with. So if you are considering moving anywhere in Florida, give us a shout. We'd love to have a conversation with you and see if we can fit you with the right person in the right area. So let's get on to the next one. All right, so number 6 is Daytona. The Motor City madness. We're kind of up into this northeast area. Now, medium home price is going to be $225 to $295. That's in Daytona Beach. Now, what's the accessibility that we're going to have up here in Daytona? You do have a public trans of buses and so forth, and you're going to have your Ubers and all that. But that tri-rail, remember that tri-rail goes like this. So the tri-rail is not up here. It might come in the next 5 to 10, 15 years, who knows? But at this point, you're not going to have that public trans that's going to link the state. Now, as far as major international airports, you're going to have Orlando right here. And then you're going to have Jacksonville right here. So it's going to be about an hour drive to Orlando, depending, and you're going to be about an hour and a half drive to Jacksonville. So you do have a good opportunity there. There is a small international airport in Melbourne. It's going to have very, very limited international flights, and you're going to get kind of more of the outside carriers like Allegiant and that, where you're going to be able to go to Melbourne. So the next thing we're going to be looking at is, remember, Daytona Beach as far as recreation, great golf. You got the TPC of Sawgrass, which is a little further up here. There's a plug for my beloved PGA Tour. And one of the biggest things that you're going to have here, and it's on a bucket list for some people. I wouldn't say it's quite on a bucket list for me, but the Daytona 500, I've heard you actually can go up there to the speedway and just check it out. So you can actually see the slope of what those cars drive on, and it might be really cool, especially for grandkids and others that, you know, people have heard of the Daytona 500 over and over and over. Another thing that I wanted to mention, which is a pretty cool thing about Daytona Beach, because I was actually up there, is there's a beach that you can actually drive your car on. It's pretty rare in Florida, and it's really rare in the United States. So there's a place where you can actually take your car out onto the beach. That's a cool thing. Lastly, temperature. It's a big reason why people move here to Florida. Remember, I keep going over that frost line, which kind of just moves right in here. So you're a little bit above that frost line there. What's going to happen, you'll notice actually as you drive in Florida, it's very tropical down here. That means you're just going to see more palmettos. You're going to see more palm trees. As you move further north, you're going to start to see the palm trees dwindle. You're going to start to see more pine trees come in and live oaks and so forth. But the ultimate point is it's going to be probably about 8 degrees difference than down here in Pompano Beach and over in Englewood where I showed you before. So it's going to be 8 to 10 degrees cooler up there. You're not going to really see snow. I think the last time we saw snow in Florida was like 25 years ago or something like that. But you can see frost. It does happen. Just know that you're going to be a little farther north. You're not going to have as much access to public transportation, but you do have Orlando right there. You have Jacksonville right there. You got the speedway and all that. If you're ever considering Daytona Beach, let us know. We know some great professionals up there that can help you out. All right, number 5, we have little old Sebastian. Now, this video is not about the size of the town, it's about the size of the budget. And this is a great beach budget town. Now I'm gonna watch this and zoom in. So we have Orlando over here. And as I zoom in, right, it's right up in here. So Sebastian, so think of Port St. Lucie, and then you got Sebastian a little farther north. It's a sleepy little town. It is like old Florida. Price of a home in Sebastian is going to be $250 to $300. So now you're starting to see, this is where we're getting down into the mid 200s where you can get that median income home purchase that's going to be more in line with your budget. Now, as far as accessibility, you're going to have limited access to public trans because it is such a small town. So be asking yourself kind of what's important to you. Do I want to be in this kind of sleepier town where there isn't a lot going on, but I can get a really, really great bang for my buck, if you will? As far as hospitals, you're going to want to come down to Vero, great hospital there in Vero. And then Melbourne and Palm Bay are going to be the spots where you're going to go to for food. And there is another decent hospital up in Melbourne as well. So lastly, as far as weather, this whole southeast area of Florida is a tropical environment. You're going to see even banana trees out. You're going to see all the lizards and critters and amphibians and that kind of stuff. You're going to see a lot more palm trees and like really broad plants that have those big leaves on them. Makes you feel like you're almost in a rainforest. So Sebastian is in that area. So you're closer up to that frost line, but you're only going to probably be a couple of degrees difference from down here in the Boynton, Pompano, and Delray areas that I showed you earlier. So Sebastian is a nice little spot. You can get entry level for $250,000. All right, so that covers 5 of the top 10 beach budget towns to live in Florida. So depending on what your wants and needs are, we went over this a little bit. We would love to hear from you on, hey, I really want great inshore fishing. I want this kind of golf. Hey, maybe you want a little bit of chilliness when we can move you a little bit further north. All it takes is reaching out to us. We would love to help you out. down in this southeast area, and we can help you out anywhere else in the state of Florida. All right, so in next week's video, we're going to be going over the top 5 out of the 10 best beach budget towns to live in Florida, and we're going to be going over number 1. So if you like this content, hey, please subscribe below, so as soon as that video comes out next week, you'll hear the number 1 spot beach budget town that we believe to live in Florida. Now, also, if you like this content, I mentioned Sebastian here a little bit earlier. I did a video on Vero. If you'd like to check that out, there's a spot where you can go and check out where the pirates actually dropped a bunch of treasure on the beach. That's a pretty cool video. So we'll see you next week with the top 5 beach budget towns to live in Florida. We'll see you on the next one.